Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We are continuing Nancy Drew, number one, The Secret of the Old Clock. We are on chapter three, Racing the Storm. Nancy, if you haven't planned anything special for the day, I wonder if you would care to do a little errand, inquired Carson Drew one morning at the breakfast table. Why, of course, Nancy agreed pleasantly. What is it? I have a number of legal documents which must be delivered to Judge Hartgrave at Masonville sometime before noon. I would take them myself, but I have several important appointments this morning. I'll be glad to do the errand for you, Nancy promised willingly. I can run over to Masonville in the roadster. It isn't more than a 15-mile jaunt. Fine. That's a load off my mind. You're sure you don't mind? It's such a wonderful day. I'll enjoy the trip. Mr. Drew parted the curtains at the dining room window and looked out. It is a bright day, but I can't say I like the appearance of those clouds in the west. Nancy, I'm afraid it may rain. You know how quickly our storms come up. I'll start just as soon as I get ready then. Where are the papers? At the office. We can ride down together. Nancy Drew hurried away to find her hat and purse. Before Mr. Drew had collected his own belongings, she had from the backed the roadster from the garage and was waiting for him at the curb. I haven't heard you mention the Crowley case lately, Mr. Drew commented as they rode along together. Have you forgotten about it? Nancy's face clouded. No, I haven't forgotten. But I must admit I have made no progress. I guess I'm not cut out for a detective. Don't feel discouraged, Nancy. The Crowley case would baffle a professional. Haven't given it up yet, Father. I may stumble into a clue one of these days. When they reached the law office, Nancy stopped the roadster and her father got out. He disappeared inside the building and, returning a few minutes later, placed a fat manila envelope in Nancy's hand. Give this to Judge Hargrave. You know where to find her. Yes, I have no trouble in finding his office. I've frequently driven as far as Masonville. Selecting the shortest route to her destination, Nancy deftly shifted gears and was off. As she rode along the gravel road, her eyes traveled to the fields on either side of the highway. Like a true daughter of the Middle West, Nancy Drew took pride in the fertility of her state and saw beauty in a crop of waving green corn, as well as in the rolling hills and the expanse of prairie land. More than once Nancy glanced anxiously at the sky. The sun shone down on the gravel road with dazzling intensity, but a large black cloud had settled in the west. Still, it did not appear to be rolling up very fast, and Nancy told herself that there was no need to worry. It won't rain for an hour or two, and by that time I'll be home, she thought. Nancy took her time on the road, and it was nearly 11 o'clock when she finally drove into Masonville. She went at once to Judge Hargrave's office, but was informed that he had gone to the courthouse. Nancy knew that the legal papers which she had been sent to deliver were important, and rather than leave them with the office girl, she set off in search of the judge. She had considerable trouble in finding him, and it was nearly 12 o'clock when at last she delivered the manila envelope into his hands. Learning that Nancy was the daughter of Carson Drew, Judge Hargrave insisted that she take luncheon at his home before returning to River Heights. Nancy accepted the invitation and spent a very pleasant hour in company with the judge and his wife. When at last she had insisted that she must start for home, it was after 1:30. I have half a notion to take a different route back, she told Judge Hargrave as she stepped into her blue roadster. It's a beautiful drive on the river road, but the trip will take longer, and I am afraid it may rain. Judge Hargrave looked up at the sky, but in spite of a general murkiness, the sun was shining. Oh, I don't believe it will rain for an hour or two, he said optimistically. That big cloud is only bluffing. Then I'll take the river road, Nancy decided. She said goodbye and started the motor. Soon she was spinning along the road which wound in and out along the Muskoka River. Nancy met few automobiles, for the road was infrequently traveled. She did not hurry, but took time to enjoy the scenery. Overhanging trees with dense foliage shaded the road and formed a tunnel which all but blotted out the sky. Presently, as Nancy drove into a clearing, she was astonished to see how dark it had become. Evidently, the big black cloud which had attracted her attention earlier in the day was no longer bluffing. It had grown rapidly in size, and it was spreading over the sky in an alarming fashion. As Nancy Drew watched, the sun vanished as though by magic. How foolish of me to take this road, she chided herself. I'm going to be caught in the storm. There isn't a chance that I can make it. Although the river road was perfectly safe in dry weather, Nancy knew that a little rain would make it dangerously slippery. Then, too, the road was little traveled, and in case of accident, she could not depend upon passing motorists for aid. If a roadster slipped into a ditch, it would be necessary to walk miles for help. Few persons lived along the river road, for the land was not considered valuable. In the spring of the year, with the arrival of heavy rains, the Muskoka River sometimes overflowed its banks and spread over the farmland, destroying the newly planted crops. For this reason, the district was not a popular one, and the land was held by poor folk. If only I could find a farmhouse where I could drive in until the storm passes, Nancy thought desperately. The sky was now entirely overcast, and in among the trees it was as dark as night. Nancy could not see the road distinctly, and switched on the headlights of her roadster. A brisk breeze began to stir the trees, and the leaves seemed to whisper a fearful warning of the storm to come. A feeling of uneasiness took possession of Nancy Drew. She stepped on the accelerator, and the roadster fairly leaped forward as though it, too, understood the need for haste. Suddenly a flash of forked lightning coursed across the sky and was followed by a loud clap of thunder. That was close, Nancy murmured uncomfortably. She bent low over the wheel and took the curves as fast as she dared. An unexpected gust of wind struck the road and blew dust in every direction. And as the cold air struck her, Nancy realized that the storm was almost upon her. Already she could see the rain sweeping down upon her from the far hills. Frantically, Nancy glanced about for a possible shelter. On down the road a short distance she caught sight of an old farmhouse and a dilapidated barn which stood near the highway. If only I can get there before the rain strikes me, Nancy thought anxiously. But the storm would hold off no longer. Large drops of rain began to splash against the windshield, slowly at first, and faster and faster. The sky had taken on a yellowish cast. Then, unexpectedly, came a second flash of lightning, and simultaneously a deluge of rain. Nancy turned on the windshield wiper, but the rain was blinding in its violence. It was impossible to see more than a few feet ahead of the automobile, and almost in an instant the road had dissolved into a sea of mud. Nancy had been caught in a number of storms, but never one like this. She feared that she would slip into a ditch before she could reach the shelter of the barn. Then, at the side of the road, the barn loomed up, and in relief Nancy saw that the doors were wide open. Without an instant's hesitation, she headed straight for the building and drove in. Safely inside, she turned off the motor and the lights, and with a sigh of relief sank back against the cushions. Well, you got in just in time, said a pleasant voice behind her. Startled, Nancy Drew turned quickly and saw a girl of her own age regarding her with interest. Even as the stranger spoke, the storm broke in full violence. A cold blast of wind rattled the barn doors and sent a sheet of rain outside. I beg your pardon, Nancy apologized as she climbed from the roadster. It wasn't very polite of me to run in here the way I did. You're more than welcome to the shelter, I am sure, the stranger told her kindly. I'm afraid we haven't much else to offer. In the semi darkness, Nancy studied the girl curiously. She had been impressed with her cultured voice and manner, and now she noted that her clothing, while not expensive, was neat and well made. The girl did not appear to be the daughter of a farmer who would live on this poor land, yet she seemed to fit into her background. Looks to me as though we're in for a real storm, the girl said and smiled pleasantly. She glanced outside at the pelting rain. I'm afraid you'll be forced to remain here for some time. So long as I'm not out in the rain, I don't mind, Nancy replied quickly. That is, if you don't object. Object? The girl spoke impulsively. Oh, you can't understand how eager we are for visitors. Grace and I seldom have a chance to talk with anyone our own age. Sometimes a whole week will go by and we won't see anyone but the postman. Nancy Drew had a natural talent for unearthing interesting stories, and now a sixth sense seemed to tell her that she had encountered something unusual. She was eager to learn more about the girl and her reason for leading such an isolated life. I must thank you for the hospitality, Nancy said, with a friendly smile. After all, perhaps the storm has done us both a real favor in throwing us together. At the moment, Nancy Drew little dreamed that the next few hours were to reveal the truth of her polite utterance. And that was chapter 3 of The Secret of the Old Clock. This is Raven Cross. Please like and subscribe and have a great day.